Welcome back, Year 10. So, before we start, I just want to emphasise you do need to watch this video all the way to the end. There are tasks embedded within this video and you are directed to. Those are the tasks that I will be grading and uploading onto Show My Homework. So, some of you have emailed me and said, yes, I've definitely watched the video. Yes, you may have watched the video. And I've got to say, some of you produced some fantastic work. But what I am actually going to be uploading on Show My Homework as a grade is your scores off of the SAM learning tasks that are embedded within this video. So please make sure that you do the correct SAM learning task when you do watch the video. Okay, I have renamed the SAM learning tasks so that they match the names of the video to ensure that you're doing the right one at the right time. I've also limited them so that they're available for a week. If you don't get 50%, I do recommend that you go in and have another go, because it means you haven't fully understood stuff. Also, within this video, there are some other links that you may find useful to go away and have a look at. I've added those again in the web links section at the bottom of Show My Homework. So do go and have a look at those. There's some other mini quizzes for you to have a go at in your own time. So today we're looking at anaerobic respiration. We've looked at aerobic respiration and we've looked at how we use those products of respiration. We're now looking at anaerobic respiration. Now this is very different to aerobic respiration, and this it means without oxygen. So today we're going to look at recalling the word and symbol equation for both, as well as comparing those two processes. Okay, so quickly write down question 1 to 6 in the margin of your book and have a go at these 6 questions. Pause the slide now. So here we go. Here are our answers. So the word equation, glucose plus oxygen, doesn't matter which way around you have those reactants again. Carbon dioxide and water, obviously, and energy. Ta-da! So, and then we've got, right, the word equation for aerobic respiration. Now this is doing some very strange things. So what I need you to do is just have a look just to the right hand side of the screen. So we've got C6H12O6, which is our glucose molecule, plus oxygen, so 6 molecules of oxygen, giving me 6 molecules of CO2, 6 molecules of H2O. This is one that's commonly asked for you to balance, okay? So sticks with your 6s. Also, we're getting energy being made. Then we've got, why do we think aerobic respiration is an exothermic reaction? Because it releases energy back into the environment. Then we've got, where does aerobic respiration take place? Mitochondria or a mitochondrion, depending which one you've put. Both are correct. State the function of glycogen is the store of glucose within the cell membrane or within the cell. Just make sure that you're talking about cellular stores of glucose. Explain why muscles contain a store of glycogen, but most other tissues in the body do not. So it's readily available because muscles require more glucose because they are the site of more respiration due to the fact they are contracting. Think back to yesterday's lesson where we looked at exercise and respiration. Okay. So last lesson we looked at aerobic respiration and we talked about this using oxygen. But sometimes our bodies have to access energy very, very quickly. And there is not sufficient time to increase our breathing rate to deliver all that additional oxygen. So therefore, at this point, when we become in dire need of energy, our bodies can anaerobically respire. And that anaerobic respiration is basically respiring without oxygen. So what we have is we use that glucose and we can produce energy. It doesn't produce as much energy. For every molecule of glucose, we produce significantly less, okay, energy, but it does give us a burst of energy. But it also produces lactic acid. Now, if you've ever had a stitch, you've ever had a cramp, that is lactic acid, and that lactic acid is not good. It's really uncomfortable. It is poisonous to our body. And if we have too much lactic acid, it can completely make the muscles seize up. Obviously, our body only really works because of all the muscles that keep it functioning. The biggest one that we would be thinking about is the heart. So when we get cramp, it is usually a indication to try and get our body to stop, slow down, and stop exercising as vigorously, requiring all of that oxygen that we're not able to get to the tissues. So once we've finished exercising, what we then need to do is get oxygen to those tissues to oxidize that lactic acid. And that amount of oxygen required is known as our oxygen debt. I would suggest that you write down the equation, please. So on the next slide, we're going to do two things. You're going to do a copy and complete exercise and make sure that you've got all this down inside your books. So you're going to need to pause the next slide. You also may want to write down the challenge. So explain why anaerobic respiration is used when Usain Bolt runs the 100 meters. You would be thinking that actually lots of athletes will be using aerobic respiration because that's what they've been training for. But actually, sprinters need to be more effective at anaerobic respiration than aerobic respiration. So go on to the next slide. And I suggest you now pause this now. The words across the top, please use those as your word bank. Sorry, crazy computer. Okay, to get a supply of oxygen, you have to keep breathing hard for a while, and after you stop the oxygen into your muscles to convert painful lactic acid, okay, which is built up into harmless carbon dioxide and water. The amount of oxygen required to do this is called the oxygen debt. Okay, give yourself a grade for that, please. Work out how many you've got correct. So the challenge question was, explain why anaerobic respiration is used when Usain Bolt runs the 100 meters. And you need to have indicated two things there, that there is a need for energy to be released quickly or fast or readily available. And they also need to talk about that there is insufficient oxygen available or able to be delivered to the tissues for aerobic respiration. They're the two things that we are trying to link together. All right. So you're going to do a bit of a practical investigation. So you can do some weightlifting here. You can think of anything you could pick up. You could choose to just pick up a carrier bag with some stuff in it, put a tin of beans or something inside a carrier bag if you don't have any string. And what you're going to do on your right hand, if you're right-handed, but if you're left-handed, you can do it on your left hand. And you're going to try and lift it up and down in a controlled manner. Not the arm, just the finger. And you can count how many repeats, how many times you can do this before it starts to become just uncomfortable. And then you're going to record your number of repetitions. And then I want you to think about and time using either your phone or a clock, how long it takes for your finger to feel normal again. And then you're going to repeat this with your index finger, okay, on your left hand. So you're going to compare your right and your left. So your dominant and your non-dominant hand. When the sensation, so you're going to analyse your results. What sensation did you feel when you exercise? What was the difference between each hand? Suggest why this might be. And think about how long it took your finger to recover. Was the recovery time on both hands the same? Try and use comparative language in your answers. So what's happening? Okay, when you get a stitch, hopefully you shouldn't have got a stitch from the last little activity, but what you should have done is you realise that when you have done loads of exercise, you're breathing faster, you're breathing harder, so the actual volume of breath brought in each time is bigger, the heartbeat is increasing, the muscles, you are using oxygen faster in the circulation system, and therefore your muscles start to respire without oxygen, which is anaerobically. Glucose cannot be fully broken down by anaerobic respiration. Less energy is released. For those of you doing the higher tier, we need to be talking about yield. So, for instance, we get 36 units of ATP, 36 units of energy from aerobic respiration in comparison to only 2 units of ATP by anaerobic respiration. So you can see there, within potentially it is only about 6% as efficient as aerobic respiration, which isn't great, but it does sort out the energy shortage in the short term. So, the chemical reaction that's occurring. What we need to be doing is looking at this. So, we've got this chemical pathway. Again, this is only for those of you doing higher, that we have glucose molecules, and during aerobic respiration, which is the reaction on the left hand side, we're looking at the aerobic respiration, and we can see again this 36 ATP molecules, and we've got this occurring in the mitochondria. Anaerobic respiration still produces pyruvate, but it doesn't produce as much oxygen energy. It only produces 2 molecules of ATP. So, why do you still breathe faster even when you've finished exercising? What do you think happens when the lactic acid builds up? Pause the slide now and think about the answer to this question. So, this idea of the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC, for those of you doing PE. And when oxygen becomes available, it is used to break down that lactic acid and release the remaining energy. Right, I have another task for you to do. This time you're going to create a table which is true and false. Alternatively, you can just write out these statements and you can put TNF afterwards. I'll pause the slide now and then you can copy them out as to whether you think these statements are true or false. So here's my answers. The red ones are false and the green ones are true. You should have 4 false and 5 true answers. So, there is some exam style questions on BBC Bitesize. I have posted this link into the Show My Homework at the bottom. I would like you to complete the blanks in the table. There is 1 mark available for each correct row. So have a look at that, please. Pause it and fill in the blanks. The answers are on the next slide. Right, not COVID-19, by the way, just a tickle in my throat. So here's your answers. Check what you've got. Give yourself a mark. Now, I did originally say there's 4 marks available for this, but those of you who are beady-eyed will know that there are 5 blanks. So therefore, you can have 5 marks. Now, just finishing up where we've got to, we're going to be comparing aerobic and anaerobic respiration a little bit more detailed in the SAM Learning Quiz, which is available. I have clearly marked this one, anaerobic respiration. You do need to do this. These are the grades that I am putting on to Show My Homework. If you've got any problems, please email me, because I'd love to hear from you all. But I also want to help if there's anything you're particularly stuck with. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.